All right, guys, so you should have read part two, which would be another 16-minute increment of the Crucible for Act 1. Here you were introduced to some fun and interesting situations. First up, we have Abigail and John Proctor. Obviously, Abigail, as you learned from the last section, is much in love with Mr. Proctor. He is apparently quite the town hunk. She quotes, "John, I am waiting for you every night." John says, "Abby, I never give you no hope to wait for me." So clearly John is not returning the love for Abby. Except when Abigail reminds him, she says, "I know how you clutched my back behind your house and sweated like a stallion whenever I come near. Or did I dream that? It's she put me out. You cannot pretend it were you. I saw your face when she put me out, and you loved me then, and you loved me now." Basically, Abby's saying they did it, and then his wife fired her, and Proctor was upset about it. John Proctor again denies it and says, "Abby, that's a wild thing to say." These two have something going on between them, and obviously John denies it. Continuing on, Mr. and Mrs. Putnam come in, and they come back into the picture, and they're obviously still looking to cause trouble for Reverend Paris. We meet Rebecca Nurse. She's not actually a nurse. Nurse is her last name, not to confuse you. She's a 72-year-old white-haired lady who is like the oldest woman in town, and everybody loves her and follows her. She's like the elder woman of town. She's very well respected. She's very much held in high regard in the town. So also we meet the guy. His name is Giles Corey. Oops, I spelled like this in the book. He is an old man in the town, and he's one of those old guys that tell a lot of stories, and people tend to just kind of roll their eyes at him because he's always complaining about something. So we meet him too. He runs in and he says, "I've not said a word. No one here can testify I've said a word. Is she going to fly again? I hear she flies." So he's kind of a rumor spreader. You know, he likes to spread gossip around the town. Rebecca Nurse, being the old wise woman she is, when the Putnams are trying to make it look like that Betty is a witch, she is the smart one, and she says, "Pray calm yourselves. I have 11 children, and I am 26 times a grandma, and I have seen them all through their silly seasons." And then she says, "I think she'll wake when she tires of it. A child's spirit is like a child. You can never catch it by running after it." She pretty much thinks that Betty is just being silly and that she's doing this for attention. She doesn't think anything of it in terms of witchcraft. Mr. and Mrs. Putnam, though, they continue pressing on, and we find out that basically Mrs. Putnam is trying to stir up trouble. She yells at Rebecca and says, "You think it's God work? You should never lose a child nor a grandchild, and I'll bury all but one. There are wheels within wheels in this village and fires within fires." So basically, Mrs. Putnam has obviously lost a lot of children, and she is saying that the devil is loose in their town, and she's kind of blaming Rebecca for it. There's all this bickering back and forth. As you can see, it's very easy in this time to cast blame on people and to try to start rumors. You have all these people, they don't know what to do with what's going on right now. I'm just scrolling through the book, guys, trying to catch all the important parts. There's a little dispute about land. So they're talking about land and how people are fighting over the lines of their land, and one person thinks they own one but another does, and they're taking each other's trees down, and so there's property disputes going on. We also find out that Reverend Paris is not happy with his salary. He doesn't think he's being paid enough, and let's see, Mr. Proctor argues with him for a little bit because he says that basically you're a greedy man and we don't like that. So Paris then yells at John Proctor for not coming to church. And basically, John Proctor says, well, I don't come to church because can you speak 1 minute without we being in hell again? I am so sick of you talking about hell. So, as just like we heard in the Sinners of an Angry Hands of an Angry God sermon, obviously Paris preaches much about hell. Um, yeah, that's most of what goes on in this section. There's a lot of bickering amongst the characters. We are introduced to Rebecca. We are introduced to Giles Corey. The Putnams come back. And just as we end this section, um, and we begin the next section, Reverend John Hale is going to be entering. And Reverend John Hale is the guy who they've called in to come see if Betty is bewitched or not. So he's the guy who is going to really prove either she is bewitched by the devil or she isn't. So they're all kind of waiting on this guy. And that's pretty much section 2. So hopefully that can help you out if you were confused or if things didn't make sense.